Hey, welcome to the VO Dojo 21 Questions. We are so excited to have Portia Scott here as our guest for Ask the Sensei coming up and finishing the year here. So, Portia, thanks so much for being here. Ready to jump in on the 21 questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay,
Absolutely. Happy
so
holidays to you. So,
thank you. You
okay.
too. It's a great way to end the
On
year
us.
here.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So let's get ourselves in the room together. What's your one word check-in for today?
Oh, one word check-in for today is honestly, it's checklist. I am existing on a very tight list of things to do. I am hosting 12 for Christmas dinner, and all kinds of variables have come up. So, in
Mhm.
order to stay organized and have it turn out to be the fabulous evening I'm envisioning, it must exist on a checklist. So
Ex
that's what I'm following.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I guess we should also say like who you are. I think guess that might be a good thing to introduce yourself of who you are and what you do in the industry, just a general overview, and then we can get into the other questions.
Sure. So yes, Portia Scott. I run voiceover at Coast to Coast Talent Group in Los Angeles. We're servicing commercials, games, animation, anime, dubbing, ADR, a little bit of promo coming through. So that's what I do. I've been a voiceover agent, I don't know, maybe 28 years now. So it's a lot of things you learn and you really have to pivot with the times.
And you are
Times are
maestra.
changing and you
Yeah.
must pivot with it, and that's the nature of the beast. And that's what I do. Background in acting. So just kind of an actor's agent, if you would
Mm-hmm.
say. Yeah, that's me.
Excellent,
That's what I do.
excellent.
Mhm.
And where are you from originally?
Los Angeles, born and raised,
Mm-hmm.
native,
Good.
proud native. So,
That's good.
yeah,
My California boys have gone to the Midwest, which is hilarious because that's where we're from. Like, wait, came
crazy
all the
how it
way
all
down here. All right.
that's how it all goes. I went to my dad and his family were all from New York, and by way of Jamaica.
Oh,
And
wow.
so when I, graduated, that's where I went. I was like, I'm going to New York.
Uh-huh. Right,
And then connected out there and did my New York stint, if you will. So
right. Yeah. And where do you live now?
I live in the Palm Springs area, Coachella Valley, and
Nice.
absolutely love it. And that's one of the silver linings from the pandemic is that we work mostly from home. I actually end up working more hours from home than I did in the office. I realized because it just goes on. You can
Right,
be
no
out, you can be
boundaries.
out, and it still just keeps coming in, and you still keep answering. So before, when the day ended, you went home. You went home. Maybe you checked emails a little bit, but
Right. Right.
so, but
Yeah.
yeah, but it's a nice trade-off. I I
Hmm.
I do. I think that it creates a level of focus that works well for me and the way in which I work
Hmm.
as a business person. So it's
Yeah.
good. And then when I need to have people involved and connect, then I do that. Do you know what I mean?
And
And
it's still close enough. It's not so far
that's right.
that you can easily come in if
Absolutely.
there's something that you need to be present for.
And from time to time when I do come in a couple of times a month
Hmm.
and I'll go work at the office.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah,
So the office still exists. You're just mostly working. Oh, that's perfect.
yeah,
That's
yeah. So the office is still there as an option. So that I like having that as well. But mostly it's from home. So it's okay.
excellent. Now, I see some posters behind you.
Ooh,
Um, so mo often we do as the sensei interviews with talent. Um, in terms of how you about your career and the careers that you've helped build and that you continue shepherd, tis the season. What would we know your work in terms of who are clients or projects or things that you feel like, that's where you'd know my work or my client's
The
work.
clients
Yeah.
work, sure. So, a lot of our success and big wins, if you will, really
Mm-hmm.
do come in the animation space. And that's animation, sorry about that. That's animation features, series, to address the posters on the back. We've got, yeah, Spider-Man,
Yeah.
Spider-Verse. Yeah, yeah,
A couple little things.
Maybe little things. I had two clients in that. Toy Story 4. I had one of the leads, youth leads, Bonnie, the role of Bonnie,
Mm-hmm.
which, that fabulous actress is Madeline McGraw, who's going on. She's in, Black Phone 2, huge success. Quite a few Pixar films she was in. Inside Out, the role of Riley.
Mm-hmm.
Up, the role of Russell. A poster here you cannot see, but it's one of my favorites. Let's see. So over here is The Little Prince.
Oh,
Little
yeah.
Prince, just like one of my favorites, such a joy. Movie led by the incomparable Mackenzie Foy, who went on to do, several other animated projects as well. Currently, we're working on, I can't say some titles of things, but we've got next year is a big release year for us. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of animated features coming from pretty prominent studios. One animated feature by, Academy Award winning director. I can't say, save that, where I have one client who is a lead and another client who is supporting in that. You know, Pokemon content. We have Malik Berger, who is Rhyme, who is just killing it in the new Pokemon Horizons. So we're excited about that. So there's just, lots of animated series, games. Oh my goodness, we've got some amazing bookings and games coming. So next year, it's like this year was really a year of catch up because we
Mm.
had two strikes, right?
Right, right, right.
We spent the year just trying to get back into the projects that we had hoped that we would continue with from before the strike, losing some of those projects to either, kids getting voicing out,
Mm-hmm.
redirection of the film just disappearing into dust.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent that year, so recording and animation, as you know, you're a year out
Mm-hmm.
or more to
Right.
recording. And so those releases are coming next year. So it'll
That's
be a big
exciting.
release year. It's always fun when it's a big release year. In between, projects and things like that. A very huge video game for a very massive classic IP,
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars, but I didn't say anything. You didn't hear it. You didn't hear it. Nothing. See here. But really big, huge client coming in, that
Mm-hmm.
content. So I'm excited for next year in that regard, that we have a lot of releases. We've worked really hard, some commercial campaigns, some really cool stuff coming in that realm, lots of ADR, big
Mm-hmm.
projects, some ADR and Zootopia.
Oh,
I can
cool.
say that, that's released. A couple clients winning being in the best video game of the year. So, you
So
know
it's
what I
almost what is out there that we wouldn't have someone that you're involved with.
Well,
It's,
there's plenty.
I'm teasing, but like, I'm teasing, but it's really powerful. And it sounds like from what you're sharing that you obviously have adult clients, and then it sounds like you also cultivate
Youth
young voices, which is really exciting.
Emerging talent is, I think,
Emerging talent.
what we say these days. That
Yeah.
it, and that makes sense. Do you know what
Mhm.
I mean? To sort of let them stand in their own category without being stigmatized, I think
Right. Kid actors. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I like that emerging talent. But yeah, that, one of my greatest joys is to call these folks and, on the first job, first booking, it's a phone call. After that, you're getting the email like everybody else. You know what I mean? It's important, especially if it's a Taft-Hartley. If
Right.
it's a big IP project, I get to just call and give the best news.
So
So
exciting.
those are my favorite calls to make. Do you know?
Yeah, and that's one kid on one Pixar movie. College is taken care of.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
it can be, and there's, because it's not just that work. There's the ancillary work that may come with
Hmm.
that, the campaigns and the so forth that you
Right.
participate, let alone the fun of just being in the project
Yeah. Yeah.
and recording it and often, Pixar will bring you to the studio, up in Oakland, and just an opportunity to go to the amazing studio. They give you, to give you a tour, lunch, recording. I mean, it's everything. It's like, oh my goodness.
It's good. It's good. And I really hear as you talk about the work that your clients are getting. I hear you working as a team. I hear you really that is something you do together, which is really exciting to hear. Um, so I think you mentioned it before, but how long have you been doing what you've been doing?
Yeah, so really, I stepped in as an agent in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped into the position as a temp. I had
Mm.
been working in casting, transitioning, still acting, casting, because you can do those things. You can be in both those fields without conflict of interest. And I went on a Monday, and Friday they offered me the job.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, and I actually had been in a position where I had been offered to work as an agent previously,
Mm-hmm.
some several years back, and before 98. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to be an agent. No, thank you. Thank you, but no, thank you. And so then here it shows up again, and I'm like, okay, I think then we'll walk down the path. And that was, 28 years ago, I think that is, if that's
Wow.
my math.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
it's really it's kind of cool to have been in it this long, I will tell you. There's so many things that I have learned along the way, and so many roads we've had to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And you like to think that you get good at it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you just, because things are changing rapidly. There's AI, there's absorption of companies where it's becoming, bigger, bigger companies, less. Does that mean that there's less opportunities? What does that, what
Right.
does that mean? Some studios pulling all of their content and only servicing one big IP. I won't say who, but it's
Mm-hmm.
big.
Right. And
And
then all of those relationships that you have from this place that's now where are those like just taking care of the relationship part of where is
absolutely.
everybody landing? Yeah.
Absolutely. And those, in terms of animation, those relationships are what I've built 28 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, and we might have to go out and build new relationships with new places. Okay, I'm good at that.
I'm good at
I'm
that.
good at that. Okay. I'm prepared. I can do that. I have to do that all the time anyway. Any
Right.
conference you go to, right? That's why the conferences are so important.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your crew, right? You've got the people who you love to see, and then you have to save room for the people you don't know.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And the people, oh, I don't really work in that business, but doesn't mean that I shouldn't go listen to their panel. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't go meet them
Mm-hmm.
as an agent, because you just never know when people either crossover, business happens. So it's important to continue to build you can't be, oh, I've done it 28 years, kids, I know
Back in my day. Yeah,
back
no.
in my day. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the things that is so vibrant about you that you really you really are always just boom, what's next? How are we rolling? It's really powerful.
Thank you.
Um, Now, who is your current team? Like, what does Coast to Coast look like? How do you work together? And I think it's also really interesting. Like, there's the team of the agency, and then I'm always interested in asking, like, how do you keep yourself supported as well? Because I think those are two really important things as we are working in this relentless business that requires so much of ourselves. So yeah, however
Yeah,
that
so
question unfolds for you.
more broadly, my team at the agency, the agency is owned by two brothers, not brothers, hey, brothers, Jeremiah and Elia Dorian. And Jeremiah is, the president day in, day out. So really, I'm supported by my boss. If I've got a situation, a question, a renegotiation, hey, we've got an illegal usage. What? Oh, there's a that's who I'm in conversation with, and
Hmm.
that's my boss. And so I have a great relationship with him, and he's sort of sometimes my bounce off. Hey,
Hmm.
what do we think? Are we going? Hey, let's think about opening this up. What can we do? How do So that's who I go to there, and then I have my youth theatrical team, and that division, and those three amazing agents who I've worked with for years and years and years. Meredith Fine, Dana Fletcher, Reagan Mendez, fantastic.
Hmm.
And so they handle all of the youth talent. So that's really where I'm able to gain so much resource and so much talent,
Hmm.
that typically when youth clients, emerging talent, when
Hmm.
they sign with the agent, when they sign with them, they sign with voiceover. So I get to have an opportunity to do a meet and greet with them, welcome them into the world of voiceover, and then if they've not done voiceover, give them some facts and things that they need to know to
Hmm.
proceed in that area. And then of course we've got our accounting department, and basically that's the team that I work with, and our on-camera commercial department, which is
Hmm.
amazing, and we share talent back and forth.
Hmm.
So there is, the benefit of having a full service agency where I can sometimes introduce voice clients to on-camera commercial, or I can,
Hmm.
we sort of, and theatrical as well. So that's on the outskirts, but on the voiceover team, it's myself and my assistant Cody,
Hmm.
who's amazing, who basically, hustles to get everything set up, organized, auditions out.
Hmm.
He gets pretty much everything sent out, and then I do most of the downloading, listening, choice makings, and then sometimes Cody sort of finishes that part off and gets it off to the buyers.
Hmm. And
Uh,
what are Cody's pronouns?
um, he is
He,
he.
okay, okay. My cat is named Cody, and he's a boy, but Cody could be a girl too. So
Although he him, but identifies with the LGBTQIA community.
okay, cool, cool, cool. Not to get so into it, Cody.
Yeah,
Always think
yeah, yeah.
it's good to
Well, I
know,
think
and
I'm proud of
because
that.
we have Alex on our team, who is she, but it could be he.
Right.
So it's good
Yeah.
to, yeah,
And
kind of,
I'm happy to say that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That I have that partner. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Community.
That's huge.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. So and he would be, I think, okay that I said that.
huge.
And then in terms of getting the actors in shape and coachings and stuff, I have an amazing team of coaches.
Hmm.
Malik Berger, of course, who is also my business partner in our educational program. And I have Everett Oliver,
Hmm.
Lori Allen, of course.
Hmm.
Amazing, amazing, amazing Lori Allen, just
Yeah.
crazy, awesome. And Kristen Piper. So
Oh, yes.
those are my coaching team. And then I have the tech guys who I'll refer off, people who have to get mostly are emerging talent clients who really have to
Hmm.
set up. The adults come ready.
Right, right.
And we select them that way. So do you know what I mean? So the adults come ready because they have to be. And
Right.
so a lot of time the emerging talent clients need to reach out and get kind of set up and so forth.
Yeah.
So that's what really supports me. I have a lot of managers I work with,
Mm-hmm.
theatrical managers who send me clients, lots of recommendations coming in. So there's always, a talent pool to pull and select from. I do lots of events and clients. Dojo, got some amazing people from Dojo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Anderson says hi.
Yes, Anderson, just like
And
end of the year, boom, this campaign,
yeah.
boom, video game, Taft-Hartley, into SAG, boom.
Yep, yep,
Just
yep.
like Dojo
Yeah.
does it. Yes, 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 yes. So there's a huge endorsement there. Thank you very much. Very happy about that.
Yeah, Fabian too. He's
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
getting there too. Yeah.
Hitman too. That's
Now,
right.
now in terms of you were talking about shifts and that you're based somewhere else. In terms of when people work with voiceover with Coast to Coast, do you have a place where people come to, or is it all remote now?
All remote.
All remote. Yeah, I think that's pretty usual.
Pretty standard.
Now, yeah, you mentioned you've been doing this for 28 years. You mentioned you started as a temp. What other things were like how did you got started as a temp, but what other things is in your background that
For
that
sure.
allowed you to step in as a temp and get hired in a week as
Sure.
an agent? Because there's
That
so
makes
many,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many skill sets that are required to be an excellent agent that come from so many. I think it's kind of like my husband is a designer and then he's also able to do coding. I think agents are kind of like that they're able to embrace and understand and align with all of the artistic thing and then really know the business ins and
Business
outs
side
as
of it.
well. But yeah,
Absolutely.
we'd love to hear
Yeah,
what's
so
your origin story.
background as actor, New York, moved back to Los Angeles, pursued acting. While I was pursuing acting, obviously I had to have a job, and I wasn't so
Mhm.
much the restaurant kind of person. I wasn't so good at that shit. So I had to go more on the sort of corporate side
Mhm.
of income, and I worked for Universal Studios,
Mm.
and I worked in almost every division. I worked from the Black Tower to MCA Records to distribution to
Wow.
marketing. So I worked in all of these departments, and I ooh, I don't know, maybe close to 10 years. So
Wow.
I think there's some retirement money that comes out of that.
No, wait a minute.
I think so.
Hey.
President Clinton, we can thank for that. You know, after so many years, you're automatically vested.
Hmm.
Um, so I worked in all of that, and then from there, I went to go work in development. I worked in sitcoms. I had done a one-woman show, and I loved the whole process. But when I came out of that one-woman show with is I really like the process, and I want to work in development. So I went down to HR. I said, "Hey, I want to work in development." They said, "Okay," and they found me a position in development. And then I got into it, and then I realized I hated it because you had to read all these bloody scripts that were horrible, and you had to write, coverage for it. I was like, "Oh, this is too much." When it's good, it's good. But when it's bad, you can't just say it's bad. You have to tell them why it's
Right.
bad. And so I did that for a while, and then I went to go work for a couple of independent producers. And from there, I got into casting. I just happened to fall into casting. I can't remember. I was working for a producer, and the casting director's assistant quit, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to go over and do casting?" I said, "Sure." And so I worked with casting director, and then from there, I kind of got the casting bug. And when I was asked to go temp at the first agency where I worked, I was waiting for a show, a movie to start that I was going to be casting on. And so I had the wager of regular paycheck, show to
Mhm.
show paycheck. Hmm. insurance, 401k, dot, dot, dot. So I made that choice. So at that time, when I became an agent, I had to withdraw from the unions. It's a whole thing
Oh,
because it's
right,
a
right,
conflict
right.
of interest to be an actor and to be an agent.
Wow.
Um,
So
so yeah,
you really went,
I did.
here we go. Yeah.
Exactly. I had to step back. I had to step back
Mm.
and step out. And so I think that having had all of that experience really prepared me for the work I was going to do as a voiceover agent, because what was different about a voiceover agent than an on-camera agent is that you actually get to work with your clients.
Right.
Back in the day when the actors would come into the agency, and you would direct, or you'd have a booth director, you still were part of their performance process in some way.
Hmm.
For me, having been an actor, it was a perfect match.
Right.
So it's funny. Just I'm hearing a client's voice of one of my first clients, youth clients, a voice, and their parent saying to me, say, "Oh my God, you took to this like a duck to water."
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And she was quite right. And I had the gregarious enough to sort of deal with the clients and speak to them from sort of an actor's perspective. And then they just taught me the business. I just learned, oh, okay, the plus 10 here, the time there wasn't
Mhm.
much non-union, so there really didn't even,
Right.
there wasn't very much non-union.
Previously in voiceover, right?
Previously, once
Yeah.
upon So just all the things, what everything, learning
Mhm.
the rates and what can be done,
Mhm.
and contracts and all the things.
Yeah.
Training my ear to listen in a way that has nothing to do with sight, right?
Right. It's a
It's
whole
a whole when
nother,
you're first learning
yeah,
that,
yeah.
it's not really what you're seeing, because what you're seeing is something different than what you're hearing, is it not?
Yeah. And then what we talk about at the dojo, and I know you work this way too, of like, what is the experience that you're feeling? What is the exchange of vibrational energies? What we talk about here, but it's not only about hearing, it's about being impacted, what's coming through. Yeah.
Absolutely, exactly. Really,
Yeah.
how are you pulling that emotion through that vocal lens,
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful image, pulling it through.
through that vocal lens,
Yeah.
and what emotion is attached to that, because that's everything.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, this is so so powerful to hear. I think this is it's really, these interviews are so helpful because you realize like you might be doing one thing, but you get exposed to all these other things, like everything you just mentioned, like, oh, so when you talk to giant studios, you're like, okay, I know what your day's like you knew all of the realms, and like just everything you just said, like, oh yeah, and that this is a great
the
segue to
perfect
the next.
migration. It's the perfect migration.
Yeah.
Like I say, opportunity knocks once and said, "Hey, listen, this really is your path." And I was like, "Yeah, no, no, no." And then it came
Mhm.
again, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not really under. Okay, fine." I was thinking more in a practical sense.
Mhm.
I was thinking
Mhm.
more practical. Oh, okay, steady income, 401, all those practicalities, and I was thinking of, and then I realized it took me a while too to realize that, oh, no, 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 no. You're supposed to be here because of
Yeah.
all the things you've done in your past has led you to this moment. So
Yeah.
once I got that and I stepped into it,
Yes.
my
Yes.
business
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, this is a good segue to the next question. Is what would you say are the three top ingredients in your success?
Ooh, being malleable to change,
Mm-hmm.
having a keen sense of talent before they know it.
Ooh, yeah. That
I think,
intuition.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Intuition. I
Mm-hmm.
think so. And just like a no nonsense, no bullshit kindness.
Ooh, that's such a beautiful oxymoron, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
But no, it's not an oxymoron because being kind and being no bullshit is actually goes
They're
together.
coupled. They are
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
We don't have to go to blows to disagree, but I also won't be taken advantage of.
Right, 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 right.
Right? So
Yeah. And saying what's really going on is often the kindest thing to say.
exactly. And sometimes
Yeah,
hard to hear
right.
on whether it's, the talent side, the buyer side,
Hmm.
colleague side, what have you, sometimes. But, we don't have to be rude and those old days of, listen, I worked in the studios. So the days of seeing, in development, people just losing their lunch against the wall because they weren't
Right, right, right. That sort of Wolf of Wall Street, hey, like
exactly.
that, like, hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Totally.
like,
Coming into the 90s, it was all that,
mhm,
having bosses who were just, so often demeaning and
mhm,
being the black girl who wasn't going to take it. I'm going
mhm,
to HR kind of vibe, having to deal with that shit. But
mhm.
like, oh, that's so yesterday. Stop.
Yeah, yeah,
Stop.
cool.
Stop.
Cool
So
that we're able to speak of it in that way. In some ways, yes. But in the realms that we are have created for ourselves to be in the world, right?
that's right.
That's yeah,
That's
and who
right.
we choose to be with. That's really powerful. Now, I don't know if you believe in big breaks or how you articulate big breaks, but if you do, what would you say was your big break?
Well, I guess if we're talking about really, I think landing the job as the agent.
Right,
Uh,
just where you had to go this
yeah, I
way
think
or that way. Yeah.
because in retrospect, it really set me up for a career to build out and now to have created a whole educational component,
Mm-hmm.
which I am happy to say that we have some interest in Pace University.
Oh,
So at
that's
some point,
huge.
which is good. Absolutely, we're starting in a very small way at the beginning of the year,
Mm-hmm. That's
bringing
exciting.
education to college students about voiceover, with the hopes of having the program built into the theatrical program. So
Right.
that is, our first win. That's Indigo Voices, Malik Berger and myself. So
Mm-hmm.
super.
Mm-hmm.
So really, this career has given birth to that, and so
Mm-hmm.
now I have, this other component. So I would say probably starting off as a voiceover agent really
Mm-hmm.
opened the door to a pretty, listen, if I took a tally of all the kids and adults and people I've worked, sometimes I'm standing in a room and I'm like, oh my God, I've reprimanded so many people in this room.
Right,
You
right,
know
right.
what I
Like
mean?
the impact that you've
Yeah,
had, the ripples of yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of bitching to have.
Yeah. What would what would you say you're proudest of in the voiceover career that you've created?
um Giving, fulfilling people's dreams.
Mm,
Fulfilling people's dreams to whatever it is, if it's to be on anime, a particular video game. People give me wish lists. They do. They send me, say, if you ever get anything for this, and sometimes it comes and they win. And then all the other amazing opportunities that come and people win them. So I think in a small way, being able to fulfill a dream. That's kind of magical.
yeah.
That's kind of magical.
It's
So I
pretty
think that
cool.
I don't speak of it often. I don't say it often. It's not my mantra, but when asked, I think that that is the biggest joy of the job, and in some ways, what makes me most proud.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful. And on the flip side, because we grow as much as we go deep, right? What's your biggest fear or challenge in your voice?
Shrinking business, what's going to be, how is this all going to shake up? Will voiceover give way to verticals?
Mm,
And how will that be negotiated? Or will that be, is that a real thing? in the
Mm-hmm.
voiceover field, AI,
Mm-hmm.
so uncertainty right now,
Uncertainty, yeah.
some uncertainty of what's coming and things like that.
And
So
when you say verticals, can you articulate what that means?
so in the on-camera film industry, there is this new format of film being recorded, and it's mostly on devices, and it's on your phone, and it's shot in sort of this format, right? So that you see, they call that verticals. And I keep wondering and asking, is there going to be a version of that in the voiceover space? Are
Ah,
they going to build animation in that regard?
okay.
Are they going to try and build short little commercials in that regard, where you have the on-camera commercial and then you have the voiceover dropping on top? And that's not negotiated in our contract, in our SAG after contract.
I see. So it's a
I
new,
listen, I could be hair on fire. I could be a little hair on fire, but I posed the question.
yeah.
And like, and of course, Nava, of course, doing amazing work on
Mhm.
all of our behalfs, agents, actors,
Humans.
behalf on AI, and what will become of that, and how will that be absorbed. We recently did something. We booked commercial, and they had a time thing that they wanted for it, but they were like, but don't pay attention to any of the temp voices in there. We've hired voice actors for all of these temp voices, but those are just the AI voices.
Oh, so they're doing scratch with AI and
We
then
scratch with AI,
humans.
and then they hired the talent.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not great, but they're not awful.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it so concerns.
I like that. I like how you just reframed that. It's you could be afraid, you could be challenged, you are concerned, and you I also just heard you going like, all right, let's think ahead on this. Like
Yeah.
taking all the experience you have. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
Oh, a little of both.
Yeah.
Like, I can, the Nava Gala, I can go and be there, and I'm like, ooh, but can I walk into the center of the room, to the nucleus of where, in the reception where the party is happening? Can I walk into that center nucleus,
Oh, that's
socialize?
interesting.
And I found myself socializing on the boundary of the space and not going to the end. And I'm like, ooh, am
Interesting.
yeah, so I felt a little introverted in
Uh-huh.
that regard. But I'm a total extrovert.
People, people, people. Yeah. But I love asking that question because I do think that this business absolutely requires that we find that blend of where we're able to be in our boxes by ourselves and have everything we need and be energized here. And then we do need to go be relationshiping and building and know where we lie and be able to take care of ourselves
Yeah.
in both places. Yeah.
So yeah, a little of both.
Well, you kind of already live in a destination, but if you could do your work from anywhere, where would it be?
Oh, probably somewhere tropical.
Uh-huh.
Somewhere tropical, exotic. Absolutely. I could spend, a good 3, 4 months on said island, and work, and have that, dual lifestyle. So yeah,
I see
probably.
it. We always say at the dojo, see it so you can be it. There you go.
That's it. That's
Be
it.
it, be it, and be it until you see it. Yeah. Um, what would you say your voiceover motto is?
Ooh, it's funny. It's funny. I was thinking about that recently, and I was thinking about it as I was watching Oprah Winfrey talk about a Maya Angelou poem,
Mm,
and the essence of the poem is, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. And the reference there is I might be the only one in the room, person of color, woman. I think I am the only Black voiceover agent in industry.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm wrong. No, no, no. There is another. I retract that. But okay. And I'm often in that. I'm often in a space where I am that one, and I'm
Mm,
reminded that I'm comforted with the idea of being the one because what comes before me,
mm,
all the ancestors who built the groundwork, all of my family, the matriarchs in my family, the patriarchs in my family, who came and built and taught and so I come with all of that on my shoulders, my wings, my back, my feet, my words, and it is also part of me to pass along. So I
wow.
was thinking, and so I heard that and I thought, oh, and I found such comfort in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking a lot about that. So that's
That's
that.
a powerful motto. That's really, really powerful. Yeah. Good, good, good. And what is a typical what is a typical day like? Is there a typical day? Like what is how you mentioned that the way the work goes from home, there's things that are positive about it, but it sort of it's but I think it's always good. We don't always get to spend time um with people who are in the agent realm. I think it's really helpful for us as talent to recognize, like, what is the rhythm? What are all the things? You don't have to go into total detail, but what's a typical day like for you?
Yeah, the thing about it is there are the beats in the day that pretty much mirror day in, day out.
Mm-hmm.
However, every day is different.
Mm.
Every day is different because I am downloading a different set of auditions. Now, the rhythm is I get up, I answer early morning emails, whatever came in overnight, whatever
Mm-hmm.
was at the top, that needed to go back to the top of the day to be addressed, invoices, contracts, uh, callbacks, bookings, submissions, that
Mm-hmm.
require us to say, please, these are the people we want you to consider. Here are samples, gathering of content.
Mm-hmm.
Top of the day. Then we began, downloads happen anywhere from 8 a.m. till about 1 o'clock. That's the morning part of the thing. So depending on how many projects we sent out, what's coming back, what's deadline, what do I download, hold, go back, listen, what has to go now. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
sorting of all of that part of the top of the day. And even though the mechanics of that are the same, the content is different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And of course, listening to the animation auditions, listening to the video game auditions provide you with a little bit different vibe than the commercial content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that part, and we get that off, and then we go back to emails because I've been downloading, so I'm sort of out of the inbox. What has come in? How do we service back? What do we need to do? Cody comes on board. Okay, this is where we are the day. This is what needs to go out. And so the day just kind of goes, and then there are days where there's meetings, and it's a full day of meetings, new talent meetings, meet and
Mm-hmm.
greet meetings, or we've got to, oh, it's an animated project. Okay. And then typically we like to bring an attorney in on that. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have to get the attorney up to speed, connected to business affairs, right? We have to make sure the talent wants to go with the attorney. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Is it going to be worth it? Are they going to really be able to move the needle? Do you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Or explaining why you need an attorney. I am an
Mm-hmm.
agent, yeah, but an attorney is going to be able to negotiate things that I didn't go to law school for.
Right, right, right.
And we want the best of that and explaining that process. So depending on what is coming in, and I'm getting on the
Mm-hmm.
phone with Jeremiah. Hey, we've got this renegotiation. We want to go back. What do we want to do? Let's look at the variables. He can pull up the quick numbers because it's all based on what the project typically generated and how we can get more, boost that,
Mhm.
things like that. So, there's that day, and then comes all the new projects for the day, all everything, and we're sourcing not only from our email box, we're sourcing from breakdowns, Casting Frontier, LA Casting. We're
Mhm.
sourcing from absolutely everywhere to pull the content.
Wow. That's a
So
lot for
it's a
two
lot,
people. That for two people, that's you guys
lot,
are really good
but
at
it's
what
an
you do.
organization.
Yeah.
And so that's why when I say the actors, the auditions must come back exactly like this, right? Because when they come
Hmm.
back like that, we can organize them and we can process them in a way.
Right. Yeah, that's what we instill at the dojo. Every second of anything that you send out in the world, you're part of someone else's workflow.
Mhm.
And the easier you can make it for anybody, the better. Yeah.
Better. Exactly.
That's great.
So you know what I mean? And so we can if we can get the material back in that way, we can process it.
Yeah.
And after a while, you learn the talent. And so now I'm listening for who's going to surprise me because I know what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you've presented me. Now, how are we going to surprise on this? And then we just sort of store that information. And then when we can get back to the talent and say, hey, listen, I've been listening to your stuff. Let's think about this. Let's think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you coaching with? Did you coach? Boom. And see if we can get them in a place that gets them a little more competitive.
Yeah, that's exciting. And coming to the last question of our questions, knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Take the first opportunity that came.
Oh, you would have done it sooner.
I would have done it sooner.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it
interesting.
would have, yeah, 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 yeah. Take to have taken that road when it first came.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, 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 yeah. It would
Yeah.
have.
Goes back to the thing we said before, say yes until it's time to say no.
Yes. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? You just
Yeah.
let's do it. So yeah,
That's
I think so.
great.
And that would have been mm, that might have been that might have been in 90. That might have been 90, 93.
Wow. So like 5 years.
So that would have been a good, yeah, 4 years, four
Mhm.
years, 4 years, almost 5 years before.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Although it is it is interesting and you can always just bless it correct that it happened when it did because
yeah. It was
everything that you said you did in those additional years sounded like it made you arrive at the
where
time
there would just be the offer
when
of
you did say yes and you knew to say yes, you wouldn't have any regrets of like no regrets, but like you yeah, it sounded like it unfolded, and then it's great that that's what you would have said to yourself. That's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think just in retrospect, I think maybe just to have said yes a little sooner. Yeah.
That's really powerful. Well, Portia, thank you so much for saying yes to joining us for 21 questions and yes to joining us for Ask the Sensei. I'm so excited to start the new year with you, and it's always just such an honor, such a blessing, so profound to get to spend some time with you and hear and feel your heart of what you do and how profoundly you bring your heart to what you do.
Big
So
love for the
thank you.
dojo.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Big love for the dojo. You guys are doing the work. You're
yeah,
preparing the actors to win.
yeah,
So thank you for being a great source for in that regard. And with joy and love and spirit and truth.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. All right.
All right. Well,
Happy holidays. This was fun.
thank you. You too. You too. We'll see you. We'll see you in a couple weeks.